opinions. In this hour, I'm joined by Jared Hill. He is the author of the NAACP Image Award winning book, Historically Black Phrases. He's also the former president of the National Association of Black Journalists, Los Angeles chapter. Also joining in this hour is Katrina Robinson. She's a consultant and former Tennessee state senator. And in hour two, you know what we do? We go deep, we dig behind those headlines and bring you those stories people are talking about. Well, in that interview yesterday at the NABJ in Chicago, Trump not only insulted Kamala Harris, suggesting that somehow she wasn't Black or that he, as a 78-year-old white man, is the final arbiter of who's Black in America. He also feigned ignorance about what DEI means, what it stands for, and basically refused to answer the question about Kamala Harris and his team's attacks on her as a DEI candidate. So since DEI has been in the news and is at the top of the news cycle again because of those comments, we thought we would replay today in hour two a video, a tape, a show that we did with some of the biggest names in the DEI industry. Mary Frances Winters. She is a 40-year DEI veteran. She has trained hundreds, if not thousands, of DEI experts around the country. She is one of the most revered, most respected experts on diversity, equity, and inclusion. She sat down with me a couple of weeks ago, along with Dr. Omikango Dabinga, who's also a DEI expert, and broke down for us what DEI stands for, why we're seeing so many attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what we should be doing in this moment to make sure that this country continues to respect diversity, continues to respect inclusivity in the workplace, and fight for equity. So this is a perfect time to refresh my viewers, my listeners, on what the guru of diversity, equity, and inclusion, Mary Frances Winters, has to say about this subject. So make sure you stick around for hour two, because Donald Trump wants us to think that DEI is some elusive, hard to understand concept, and it is not. And Mary Frances Winter and Dr. Omikango Dabinga will break it all down for us in that second hour of the show today. But before I bring on my guest, here's what I'm thinking in real time. So this interview, this NABJ interview of Donald Trump, has everyone talking. You just Google the interview. We played parts of the actual interview on the show yesterday and broke down each of those segments with Emmy Award winning NABJ journalist, anchor, Sharon Reed. She's a regular contributor on this show. She wasn't at the convention yesterday, but she's been to many, many of those conventions. And we got her take on what she heard on that convention floor yesterday on that stage with Donald Trump and those three Black women journalists. Well, the National Association of Black Journalists is under fire. Lots of its own members coming out, speaking out, incredibly critical of the decision to have Donald Trump even appear at the convention. We saw some of the prominent Black members of NABJ speak out even before Trump took the stage on Wednesday. And after what most people are calling a disastrous interview, well, I should say most people other than Amber Rose, who tweeted that Trump was killing it at the NABJ conference. But for the most part, the consensus is that this was a disaster, that Trump, as his own party is saying, deviated from their strategy, their talking points of staying focused on Kamala Harris and the policies of the Biden-Harris administration and what those policies might do if Harris is elected president. Trump didn't want to talk about that. He wanted to do what he always does, which is insult Black women, insult Black female journalists, and then question Kamala Harris's race, question whether she's Black. And he did that for a reason. Well, Donald Trump is no fool. One, it got him on the top of all news cycles, which is what he loves to do. And some say he was getting a little jealous of J.D. Vance, because J.D. Vance and his childless cat, women comments, those ridiculous comments by J.D. Vance was dominating the news cycle. And so Donald Trump doesn't want anyone to dominate the news cycle. So when someone is dominating the cycle, what does he do? he has to amp it up, right? He has to say something even more provocative to make sure that he is in control of the cycle. So he did that yesterday. He also did it because there are people in this country, we know, those who were very much interested in his birther theories around Barack Obama. And we know that's how he, in some ways, launched his foray into politics, which was questioning whether Barack Obama was born in the United States, whether he was a citizen of the United States, and whether he could even be qualified to be president. And he knows the power of that kind of controversy. He knows there are people, voters, who are fascinated with this concept of who belongs in this country and who doesn't belong. So he wasn't just there, he being Donald Trump, to insult those Black women on the stage. Yes, that was a part of what he did. He planned to do that. That's what he does. But he also had a motive, an ulterior motive, and that was to appeal to those voters who have decided that they get to determine, who's a citizen of the United States, who needs to produce their birth certificate, who needs to prove to them that they are qualified to run for president. So as much as we were all disgusted by Donald Trump's statements, don't think for 1 minute that he wasn't speaking to a key part of what he believes to be his constituents. That's why you saw Amber Rose, his surrogate, supposed surrogate for the Black community. And, Black folks are questioning why he would think that she speaks for us. But, she is that for this moment. And there are others, Black male voters. We know that that's a target for his campaign. So in many ways, a lot of people are speculating that he was talking to Black male voters who already may have issues with Kamala Harris. So let's give them some other issues. Let's have them talking about her being, not authentically Black, whatever that means in his small mind and the brain that he maybe has in his head. But again, very insulting comments. But I am so proud of the way our VP has handled it. I'm so proud of the way her team has handled it. They didn't give over the news cycle to Donald Trump. They didn't get into a tit for tat. I'll show you my birth certificate. No, they didn't let Donald Trump bait them into that. They said what was needed to be said is that he is a master of chaos. He's divisive. And if you vote for him, this is the kind of chaos and divisiveness he will bring to the White House. Again, enough said. Let's move on. Let's stay focused on the issues and the fact that your campaign is failing, it's falling apart. Donald Trump is becoming increasingly more unhinged as he sees what Vivek Ramaswamy sees, that the messages they have targeted for Kamala Harris aren't landing. And so when Donald Trump feels trapped, when he feels, locked into a corner, when his, playbook isn't working, he goes to what he is familiar with, and that's personal insults. But this campaign, Kamala Harris's campaign, is way too smart, way too savvy, and they are winning in places that people never thought they could win, and in record time. And Donald Trump and his team, they see it, and they're nervous, and they are afraid, and they better be, because we are not playing with Donald Trump or the MAGA voters. We're going to keep bringing it, like our vice president did on that stage in Atlanta yesterday. So that's what you can expect, Donald Trump. Get ready, buckle up. It's about to be a rough, rough ride. More of today's breaking and trending news when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. Tavis is like George and Wheezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African-American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent. So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle.
Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle. This back-to-school season, Tide and Downy are giving back with $1.5 million in scholarships. Enter to win. No purchase necessary. US/DC 17+. End September 30th. Rules. Tide.com/scholarship/official rules.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the TFL.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us and our climate justice campaign partner, LA City Council member Curran D. Price Jr., as we celebrate the grand unveiling of the South LA Greenway, Saturday, August 3rd, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Augustus Hawkins Nature Park, 5790 Compton Avenue in the city of Los Angeles. Join us for a green and healthy festival with free food, planting activities, tree adoptions, nature walking tours, Zumba, yoga, sound baths, and more. It's summer. Time to get outside. We look forward to seeing you at the dedication of the South LA Greenway, Saturday, August 3rd, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Augustus Hawkins Nature Park, 5790 Compton Avenue in the city of Los Angeles. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, LA City Council member Curran D. Price Jr. and KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and in this hour, Jared Hill and Katrina Robinson are joining me. And in hour two, we're going to be talking with, I should say, with Mary Frances Winter and Dr. Omikanga Dabinga a couple of weeks ago, talking about DEI. And DEI is trending in the news again because of those comments Donald Trump made at NABJ. So make sure you stick around for hour two if you have any confusion about what DEI is and why it's under attack. Why is Donald Trump always talking about DEI? Jared, I am so glad to have you on today. You were the president of the Los Angeles chapter of NABJ. I know you aren't at the convention this year because you're about to embark upon a new degree at Harvard University. Congratulations on that. But I'm curious as to your take about all of this, like the decision to invite Donald Trump, what you saw on that stage yesterday, what you have seen by some prominent members who are railing against the president of NABJ, and some are suggesting that it's time for a leadership change, that he should be removed.
Yeah, this has been an interesting time for us as an organization, nationally at least, because we've all been kind of in this this cyclone of news that has been happening since they announced it on a Monday night. And I will say that I was not a big fan of this. Within minutes of the announcement coming out, I was in texts and calls and emails and all kinds of different things with folks. Like, what are they doing? Why is this happening? Can you believe this? Oh, no, they didn't. Why would they? I mean, I get it. Those kinds of conversations happening in real time, at the risk of the pun here. But we definitely had the moments of conversation around, like, why are we doing this? And we continued that conversation all day Tuesday and Wednesday. And then the conversation started. And a lot of us were like, see, now this is what we was talking about, right? And so Donald Trump came out, very aggressively right off the top, very adversarially, if you will, with the interviewers, and did not stop for 35 minutes, which was also interesting because the interview was supposed to be an hour. And according to what they were saying on stage and what we were hearing afterward, the Trump team seemed like they pulled him off stage. It was not a great moment for us, but it's definitely been able to show us a little bit more of who Donald Trump is right now.
Well, one thing that's interesting, Jared, I read an article by a guy who said he's a 40-year member of NABJ, and he had some initial concerns. But this article, he talks about some of the, what we learned from the interview, but he concludes by saying perhaps NABJ are the winners because they are at the top of the news cycle. And he kind of makes that cliche, all publicity is good publicity. I found that to be odd, given that this is an organization of journalists who are in the news all the time. And I found it odd that they would say that, the fact that the NABJ is trending is a good thing, particularly given the subject matter for which it is trending. What do you make of that statement that this could be a win because NABJ is in the news cycle?
I think that's some great spin perspective. I think that is a way to tell this story. And I think that, listen, there are some possibilities for NABJ coming out of this, right? I actually hate this news cycle for us. We're in our 49th year, getting ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary next year. And I don't think this is the kind of story that we needed to put our name into, the conversation nationally or into the news cycle. However, I do think there is an opportunity for more people to be like, what is NABJ, or what is the purpose of NABJ? Who are these people that we were listening to interview him? Who are the people that were upset, right? And what was their feedback, and what was the reason that they felt that way? So I think there's a lot of different opportunities here post this, but I think it's definitely not been a great moment for us. And I'm not a big fan of like the all publicity is good publicity, which is a very Donald Trump kind of way to kind of think about publicity. But I certainly didn't feel like it was a great moment for us as an organization from a national perspective or from a local perspective. Obviously, I was the former president of the Los Angeles chapter, and talking with other people in other chapters, it's like, oh man, now people are hitting me up like, oh, isn't that your organization? Isn't that you? Did you do this? Those kinds of things. So it's been a very frustrating situation.
Yeah, I was a little troubled by that statement. Like, no, let's not adopt Donald Trump's view that all publicity is good publicity. That's not accurate. It's not true. And most folks, I think most journalists, we recognize that there's some things we don't ever want to be in the news for. Katrina, what do you make, though, of the way the VP, she didn't respond to this by trying to prove her Blackness or, whipping out her birth certificate or anything, or whipping out photos of her, crossing her line at Howard University, or, she just said, look, this guy is divisive. He's bad for the country. He's a chaos master. And this is evidence. What do you make of that response?
I think it was the correct response. Our VP doesn't have to prove anything to anyone as far as her race is concerned. If you recall, Donald Trump at one time was saying he was Swedish because he didn't want people to know that he was German. So I think it was a case of the pot calling the kettle black. And she recognized that Donald Trump had no intelligent basis to go about this interview. And that's what he came there to hinge it on, was attacking her race. And he really, really did us a service by displaying how he feels about Black women in the way that he responded to those questions to the NABJ. So it actually did work in their favor from a spin perspective, but I do understand.
I'm very proud of the way Vice President and her team have handled this response. Vivek Ramaswamy has a lot to say about this attack, this personal attack, Jared, and saying that, look, we have a strategy and our strategy isn't working. He says we need a massive reset right now. We've heard some other Republicans saying, look, Trump, stick to the script, stick to the plan. And the plan is to attack on policies around immigration, around inflation and the economy. But Donald Trump, that's not where he lives. So should these people, why are they so surprised? And should they be?
I would say, and I would imagine the senator can speak to this as well, when you have a message that you're supposed to be on, right? When you're supposed to be here to talk about this thing, we've already heard reporting that the Republicans have been out saying, like, we need to make sure that we watch this racist thing. We need to chill out on that. We need to pull that back. We need to rein that in. And we can talk about the various different reasons we think Donald Trump said yes to this, because this is something that he agreed to, his team negotiated and agreed to be a part of. But I think it's also interesting to continually see Donald Trump not be able to stay on that message, because I think there was an opportunity for him to come in and talk about something that could have been relevant to that room. I don't really know too many of those things, but they have a message, right? They have a message that they're trying to push. And he certainly didn't push that. But I found it interesting. And even in that first question, when they asked him, you saw Rachel Scott read down the list of different things that he's done. And it was certainly not comprehensive, but it was extensive. We heard her say all of those different things and then ask him, why should Black voters vote for you? And if you look at the duration of what he said, there was not an answer in there, right? There are multiple different instances where he was asked something that might have been difficult to answer, but he never answered it. He attacked. He would respond, but not answer. And I think that was really a lot of what we saw out of Donald Trump, trying to figure out how to be on message or how to have a message.
Well, one of the things he did do, which is what he notoriously does, which is kind of begs the question as to why ever interview him. He goes to his playbook. We can repeat, Trump's greatest hits. It's like a hit list of songs that an artist has, and they sing the same song at every concert. I'm the best president for Blacks since Abraham Lincoln. I love the Black population. He loves to say, I love the Blacks. I saved HBCUs. I was the best president on jobs and employment. And he points to those opportunity zones that he got, that legislation passed with Senator Tim Scott. So he has a list of things that he just rattles off no matter what the question is, all of which are lies. And I think the problem I had, Jared, with the interview was they said they were going to be fact checking in real time, but they referred you to a website where you had to go to get the fact checking. And the question is, when they interview someone like Donald Trump, how come we can't have a split screen and have the in real time fact checking occur? Because there are people who really believe Donald Trump saved HBCUs because he just keeps saying it over and over and over again. So if you caught that interview and you hear him say that, and you don't have those three journalists on the stage, and I'm not trying to be disparaging about them, you couldn't fact check him in real time without running out of time, because literally everything he said pretty much about policies were just complete lies. So when we come forward, I want to talk about how do you interview someone like him, or should you interview him at all? One big question is this supposed debate that he's weaseling out of on September 10th. Is that a good thing that he doesn't do the debate, or that Kamala Harris doesn't stoop to his level and debate with him? More of today's breaking and trending news when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Former Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama will help the country mark its 250th anniversary. America 250 announced the former presidents, along with their wives, Laura Bush and Michelle Obama, will serve as its honorary national co-chairs. The nonpartisan initiative was created by Congress to plan to mark the key milestone of the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 2026. America 250 is planning a number of commemorative activities that will engage all 50 states and 6 U.S. territories leading up to the anniversary. The city of Montgomery, Alabama is celebrating Black Business Month. An event called the Sips at Sunset Garden Party will be held this Saturday at the Museum of Fine Arts. It's put on by the Alabama Collective in partnership with Access Montgomery. Proceeds benefit MGM Seed, which is designed to empower and uplift small and minority-owned businesses. About 10% of all American businesses are Black-owned. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Taking a look at some delays over in the OC County, 241 northbound in Anaheim Hills has a 20-minute backup between Windy Ridge Toll Plaza and the 91. In Costa Mesa, watch for some slowing on the 55 north between the 405 and 4th Street Irvine Boulevard interchange, up to 10 minutes. Then the drive remains slow from Chapman to the 91. Over in Orange is 22 East connector to the 5 South Highway 57 interchange. Watch for a stall car on the right shoulder, causing slowing from Harbor Boulevard. A 2-car accident in Laguna Hills 5 South at Alicia Parkway is on the right shoulder with slowing that continues from Lake Forest Drive. And hit-and-run accident in Anaheim Hills 91 East at Highway 241 is on the right shoulder with a 35-minute backup running heavy from Glassell Street Kramer Boulevard split.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer custom-made faux wood and real wood blinds and shutters, cellular shades, Roman shades, bamboo shades, exterior shades, and more, all at factory direct prices. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A statue of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gigi will be unveiled tomorrow outside Crypto.com Arena. This is the second of 3 statues that were planned to honor the Lakers legend. The final statue will be unveiled sometime next year. Kobe and Gigi will be displayed together as one statue. Kobe will be featured in a jersey with the numbers 8 and 24. Gigi wore number 2 when she was playing. She'll have that number on the statue. We're getting close to the track and field competition at the Summer Olympics in Paris. Track and field events start tomorrow with prelims in the women's 100 meters, the women's high jump, and 4x400 relays. The men's decathlon and 1500 meters also starts tomorrow. The Dodgers are off today. They're in Oakland tomorrow for a 3-game series. The Angels are at home tonight against Colorado. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us for a book party celebrating The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. Almost 2 decades ago, the Covenant book, compiled and edited by Tavis Smiley, climbed to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list and stayed there for weeks. The first book by a Black-owned publisher to achieve such a feat. The urgency of the issues that matter most to Black fellow citizens has only intensified, especially in this critical election year. On Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m., come meet Tavis Smiley alongside Covenant contributors including Cornel West, Connie Rice, Mark Ridley Thomas, Elisa Orduna, Tyrone Howard, and Melina Abdullah as they sign copies of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. You can purchase your books on site and get them autographed. That's Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m. in the city of Los Angeles. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got your black.
We are back. Jared Hill and Katrina Robinson are joining me in this hour. And in hour 2, we're going to be talking to some gurus about DEI. That's a subject that is in the news a great deal because there are those in the Republican Party that don't want to focus on Kamala Harris's record and what kind of president she might be, but they want to focus on these personal attacks, and they keep making them despite some of the strategists, the Republican Party strategists, saying that's not how we're going to win this election. Doesn't seem to be motivating folks like Donald Trump, though. Let's talk about what is going to motivate voters, you think, Jared, in this upcoming election. There's an article out, I didn't include it in the news today, that says all Black women aren't convinced yet about Kamala Harris. I was on a call last night with some local elected officials in Los Angeles, and they were livid about that headline. It was a headline in the Los Angeles Times, and wanted to see Black women on that particular call last night push back on that. What's your sense about, are there Black women who still don't know about? Of course, there could be, But, is that just a sensationalized headline?
I think so. I think that we see all kinds of different things about Kamala Harris that we're going to be like, what is that? Or what does that mean? Or why would they say that? And I think that right now we have an electorate that is still kind of meeting Kamala Harris, which I want to just note is a little bit weird to me because she's been our vice president for the last 3.5 years. Which was why Donald Trump's statement to me yesterday was weird. I'm like, it's not like we just met Kamala Harris. She's not she's been a known entity for a long time. But I think there are going to be plenty of different constituencies, including Black women and various others, that are still trying to get a sense of not just who she is, but what she stands for, why she's running, what her positions have been in office. And I think that one of the interesting things has been like seeing her favorabilities continually to grow, right? We've seen how Kamala Harris's numbers in polling have continued to rise the more that people get to see her and the more people get to hear her voice and understand her perspective and see what she's trying to accomplish. And so I think that we have plenty of Black folks who don't see Kamala Harris's name in the headlines every day prior to 2 weeks ago, right? That aren't familiar with all of the different things that she's been doing around the country and around the world on behalf of the country. So I think it's reasonable that people are still trying to figure out who she is and what she's doing and what she wants. I think it's going to be interesting to see how she goes about accomplishing that. And I think a big part of that we'll see at the convention in a few weeks.
Yeah, Katrina, obviously you are in touch with a lot of Black women. You are a Black woman yourself. We're not monolithic. They're Republican Black women. They're independent Black women. They're Democrats. They're in the Democratic Party. We have mods and centrists and progressive. So what's your take on that? And where are, that group of Black women that don't know Kamala Harris yet? What does she need to say to them, and how should she be talking to them, since messaging is such a big issue in any campaign, and particularly in a campaign like this?
I think a great job so far with the Harris campaign in reaching the masses. One of the things that we have to be careful about is listening to those media headlines that try to bring about divisiveness between the Black women. Black women appreciate Black women in leadership. Black women appreciate someone who is an advocate for their issues and their rights. And so I believe she has to make a louder voice in talking to the average Black woman who is not familiar with her, who only sees her as a Black woman who served as a running mate for a white president. But you do still have that. Realistically, you do still have women who feel like Kamala Harris has not done what she was supposed to do in her role as a VP. So she does have to bring to light all of her wins and all of her accomplishments. Even prior to being elected as the Vice President of the United States, she had several wins as a senator from California. And so she has to be able to communicate that to the everyday Black woman. I saw a lot of flack about the rally in Atlanta and her inviting Meg Thee Stallion, but sometimes that's what it's going to take to get to every.
What was the criticism of that you saw, Katrina?
I've seen criticism about her allowing Megan to sing the songs that she sang or to dance the way that she danced. And you just got to be realistic. Like you said, Black women are not monolithic. We have young voters who resonate with Megan Thee Stallion. We have young voters who want to get involved and want to do their civic duty and want to be a part of this movement. And the only way you reach them is by introducing them to someone who is relevant to them at that time so that you can bring your message to them.
Well, you raise a good point about Meg, and all of us are probably progressive and probably thought that was a good idea. But we have to remember too, Black folks, particularly Black Southern folks, and Katrina, you're one of them, are pretty conservative. And a lot of people don't like the message of rappers. They don't like the lyrics of rap songs. They don't like, the way rappers dress, the way they perform, the way they twerk. So we can't lose sight of that and Kamala Harris is conservative herself. Look, we've never seen a woman's arms, right? She wears the same pantsuit every day, covered up to her neck. So we know that she's pretty conservative in that way. And that's something that this campaign has to be concerned about, because not everybody is, a Cardi B, Meg fan. And they do think that that's kind of beneath, I'll use that word, a vice presidential candidate that's running to be president. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out. And that brings me, Jared, to this question about, messaging. The Republicans are mad at Donald Trump because they want him to stay on message on the policies. He can't seem to do that. He seems to be trying to weasel out of this September 10th debate because it's on ABC, and he's got beef, as we saw yesterday with Rachel Scott with ABC. We were saying Joe Biden shouldn't even debate Donald Trump. Now seeing what we saw yesterday, that he will not answer questions, that he is going to resort to personal attacks, should Kamala Harris debate Donald Trump? Is there anything new we can learn from him from a debate?
I hate to talk out of both sides of my mouth on this, but I'm kind of on both sides, right? I used to host a show called Fanti where we talked about things we were fans of and also anti, and I'm kind of on both sides with this. On one hand, I'm really loving the say it to my face message, right? And not just from a loud, like finger waving kind of perspective like we love to do, but also from the perspective of like he has a lot of different kinds of things to say about her that I don't think that he would be too keen on saying to her face, right? And I think that when we see him talking about whether or not he's going to go to this
really
debate,
wait a minute, let me stop you. You don't think Donald Trump standing on a debate stage with Kamala Harris would have said the same thing about, he would have looked at that moderator, in my opinion, and said, well, she was Indian one day, she was Black the next day. He doesn't tend to back down from things like that.
Not that he wouldn't have said that to her face, but I don't think that when she's standing there and can respond and reply and have a one-liner back to him, I don't think he's going to be as inclined to be as wild, right? Being up against journalists where they're there to ask you they're to ask you questions or at a kind of like pause it as the audience, I think that's one thing. But when you have a person who is standing across from you and able to respond in the ways that we've seen Kamala Harris already be very effective on the stump, right? To say it to my face, my favorite Kamala Harris line back when she ran in 2019 was, "Dude gotta go," right? Like there have been various different lines that she's been able to effectively utilize to be able to convey the message of this man is not qualified.
No, let me stop you, Jared. Katrina, jump in here. Do you think Trump backs down even, standing next to Kamala Harris on stage? My fear is he does that, Jared. He makes those jabs at her. She comes back with those one-liners, which are good sometimes, but can also cause her to be in this kind of tit for tat, like Joe Biden and Donald Trump fighting about who had the best golf game. So he has a way of baiting you that could bring you down to his level that, we don't need to see. We know she's sharp. We know that. I don't know if we would like seeing her in that kind of back and forth with him. What do you think, Katrina?
I actually agree with Jared. I think that it will be a great display of the difference in their level of intelligence. First of all, Kamala is very good on the stump. She's very good with.
The question though is, hold on a second. The question is, do you think he backs down from insulting her because she's standing there?
Oh, absolutely not. He won't back down from insulting her, but she would be the fact check that we've been missing because, of course, we've seen the moderators won't fact check him on anything that he says, but Kamala will. And I think that's the opportunity that's there. You have to be able to take advantage of every opportunity possible to get the message across. This man is inept and incapable of running this country.
So you want to see the debate?
Yes, I don't think that Kamala would stoop to the point of being the angry Black woman on the stage. I think she will get with him appropriately, and I think she will have the appropriate responses. I don't think that she will allow him to reduce her to his level.
Let me change the question slightly, Jared. If Trump says, I'll debate you, but it has to be on Fox or nothing, do you think she shows up?
I think Kamala is going to show up to any debate scenario because I think that even Kamala Harris, I think about having seen her in the Senate for the time that she was there before she became vice president.
Right, but do you think it's a good idea if Fox says this is the way? It's got to be Fox, it's got to be Harris Faulkner, it's got to be, some of those other people, Jesse Waters, whoever's on Fox. They got to be the moderators. It's got to be with my rules, my time, my place.
I don't think it's an ideal scenario for her, right? And I don't know that they would agree to it, but I think that Kamala Harris can handle herself against Donald Trump because Donald Trump isn't really going to be offering anything substantive, right? He's going to be attacking her race. He's going to attack her gender. He's going to attack the record with lies. But I think that Kamala Harris also has command of that information. And so I don't think that Fox would be an ideal place for her to do that. I think that ABC being more neutral or a place that Donald Trump is actually frustrated with, I think that does pose a different dynamic. But I think that Kamala Harris is in a great position to be able to debate Donald Trump, which is why we're even having this conversation about whether or not he's going to debate her because he's already kind of backed out of it. And so I don't think that he's not going to attack her to her face, but I more so think that Donald Trump is a lot less inclined to get away with it, right? Because she's going to be able to respond to it. I think that those kinds of things that he's putting out into the world right now, they land in a certain kind of way because there's no response to it. There's no retort to it. There's no rebuttal to it.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with both of you all. I think it would be a huge mistake for a female candidate to be pushed around by a male candidate, for him to get to set the rules, get to set the place, who does the moderating, and all the rules of engagement. I think she should debate him, but I think she should have an equal role in what network is selected, who the moderators are, and every other aspect of the debate. The last thing I think for a female candidate, and Katrina, when we come forward, I want to get your opinion, having been a female candidate, for them to capitulate to the demands of a bully, particularly a male bully like Donald Trump. When we come forward, more of today's breaking news on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelenos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV. With reported hate crimes rising in recent years, California has responded through outreach efforts across state government and in collaboration with community-based organizations for the launch of CA versus Hate. This non-emergency, multilingual hate crime and incident reporting hotline provides an anonymous reporting option for victims and witnesses of hate acts, reported in 15 different languages through the online portal and in over 200 languages when calling the hotline. Report anonymously by calling 833-866-4283, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or online at any time at cavshate.org. Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
All right, Katrina, you've run for office. So imagine yourself in a campaign and your male opponent says, I'll debate you, Katrina, but it's got to be on my turf with my people and my rules. Do you show up for that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I have just as much authority as you have when in terms of debate. And I think it's very important for a woman who's running for office against a man to assert her authority in that way. in that she doesn't show up the same way he wouldn't show up for her, I wouldn't show up for him. That's how you handle that situation. If there is something that, say for instance, if Fox wanted to do the debate, but he did not have the authority to say how it was going to be, who were going to be the moderators, what the terms were, then I would do it, of course, because I'm not afraid of that audience. But you do not have the right to dictate the terms under which we debate.
Yeah, and that's the thing in this whole campaign, Kamala has to be so careful about, because we know as a female, all of those kinds of decisions she's going to be judged on. Is she tough enough? Can she stand up to a bully? And if she can't stand up to Donald Trump, of course, they're going to say, well, of course she can't stand up to Putin, and she can't stand up to other world leaders. And so, again, any other normal candidate, you would be able to sit down and come to some agreement. They wouldn't even try to assert that kind of power over you. They would recognize that this is a collaborative process and both sides have to agree. But I think he's just, backing out of ABC so he can put her in this corner. And if she says, no, I'm not going to come to Fox on your terms, then he gets to say, oh, she's afraid of me, blah, blah, blah. But nobody cares about that. And nobody, I think, is in any way delusional about the fact that Kamala Harris is so much better at debating. She's so much sharper on the issues and the policies, and she could definitely take him on any place, anywhere. But she definitely has to have some control over that narrative and how that debate gets played out. Before we run out of time, I do want to ask you, Jared, about the Senate Democrats moving to make court reform, Supreme Court reform, a marquee issue. Progressives have been pushing for this forever. AOC, we have to give her a lot of credit for leading the charge on this. It seems like a light bulb has gone off, and maybe that's because of the energy in the party right now. There's some sense that we can push a little harder. How important do you think the issue of court reform can and could be to this presidential race?
I mean, I'm talking to a lawyer here, so I value your opinion on this as well. And I'm thinking about it from the standpoint of we're kind of in lame duck time now for Joe Biden, now that he's gotten out of the race. And to me, it seems like one of those things that he wants to be on the record having said, not necessarily having gotten anywhere with it, right? Because we know that this Senate is not going to go for that. We know that it's not something that's realistically going to happen before he leaves office on January 20th. I do think it's important that we kind of note this shift, though, from Joe Biden, because Joe Biden in 2020, when he ran on the idea of we should be discussing it, and we should do a study on court reform, and whether that's expansion of the court or adding in different rules and things like that. So this is a bit of progress for Joe Biden, but I don't really see it going nowhere. I do think it gives us the opportunity to see it possible in a Harris administration if we get the Senate and the House in the ways that could work.
Well, the beauty, Jared and Katrina, that Joe Biden has right now, and folks that were with him on Air Force One recently talked about how relaxed he is, and he's not combative and he's not angry, at least on the surface, with those folks that called for him to step down. But he's got to figure out something to do. And, he's got to cement his legacy. This is legacy building time. And obviously getting Kamala Harris elected, being the person that ushers in the first female president, that's a huge legacy play. But this is the time, Katrina, where he can be bold. He can say, expand the court, give him some rules, overturn some of these decisions. He can come out and do a lot of things that perhaps he wouldn't do if he was at the top of this ticket.
Absolutely, but I'm with Jared. I don't think that's going to happen in this time that we have left. I do think if the Democrats take 2024, when we take 2024, that it will be quite the possibility, and it's very necessary at this point.
Yeah, no, court reform is critical. Just like these down ballot races, we cannot overlook those either, Jared. As much as we all love Kamala Harris and want her to make this historic move and play as our first female and our first African-American, our first South Asian president, she won't have a lot to do. She'll be twiddling her thumbs too if we don't win the House.
Absolutely. And I think that as we're looking at this election, there are so many Democrats that are down ballot that are actually excited about the enthusiasm that we're seeing from the Kamala Harris campaign. We heard prior to Joe Biden jumping out of the race, that there was a lack of enthusiasm of trying to get people signed up to volunteer, to go knock on doors, to make phone calls, to do all of the various different things that what we see volunteers doing. But we've seen such a huge surge of people that are interested, right? And that's going to definitely help our down ballot candidates, whether they are on the state side, if they're on the federal side, whatever it is. It's going to be really helpful to have a great candidate at the top of the ticket that brings out a lot of enthusiasm, that brings people out to the polls, that gets people wanting to be a part of the process.
Yeah, I'm hearing about races that people thought were really close or perhaps weren't even winnable for Democrats now having this sense of renewed energy that maybe, you know, we can take the House and the Senate. I mean, and how amazing would that be, Katrina, if we had the White House, we had Hakeem Jeffries as the Speaker of the House, and we had Chuck Schumer as, you know, the Senate pro tem. So we have all three branches of government. We could really move this country forward in a significant way.
Absolutely, and historically, you cannot overlook the fact that the top ticket candidate usually dictates what happens in those state races, and so you're going to see a lot of momentum. The apathetic have woke up; they're ready to go to the polls now. You're going to see some victories in some state Senate races, some state House races that you would not have expected in those areas that were redistricted. So there are going to be a lot of more people coming out because of the top of the ticket on this ballot. And I think that's what we're going to enjoy in this race. I'm hoping that they pull it off in those states. And I'm hoping that this is the energy and the momentum that we need to see that happen. Because if we get all three, we're done. We're ready to roll.
And that's what has them so nervous. That's why Trump is so unhinged. That's why he's unraveling right before our very eyes. They see the momentum. They see the money that's being raised. They see the volunteers, people who've never been engaged in political campaigns, stepping up saying, I want to be a part of this history. And they know that it's a numbers game. And there are literally more of us, and I keep telling people that there are more of us than there are of them, meaning people that are progressive, that do believe in the rights of women and of people of color. And if we can just get our voters out to the polls, I mean, we can really see this race in not just for the president, make history, obviously, with Kamala Harris, but as you said, Katrina, which I think is so important, all those local races, those state houses that Republicans have taken over, we can start to see some reversals. We can start to see Republican lose ground, you know, as governors, as state reps, as state senators. So this is a really exciting time. Thank you both for being here and sharing your brilliance and your insights. Always a pleasure to be in conversations with both of you. Make sure you stick around. Our two DEI experts are going to break down for you what diversity, equity, and inclusion means, why folks are coming for it, and what we all need to know to make sure that we continue to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in this country. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580 when we come.